You are listening to Trophy Horse with your hosts, Tricky Mick, Alex, I Yield to No One, Sid, and Ender Phoenix.
Well, see, now, everybody keeps telling me that the Grinelli takeover is not in effect. And yet, here I am, hosting yet another episode of Trophy Horse. It's Sunday night. How you doing, Alex?
I'm doing pretty good, sir. And, Tricky couldn't be here with us. Well, he's here in the background watching the chat. But, I didn't get much sleep last night. I went to work at 3 a.m. and had to do some driving for the holidays. I'm just like, Matt, you're a kind soul. You're very charitable. It's that time when we rely on people to be generous. And I asked, would you please host a podcast? Because I'm just not feeling it. And you were gracious enough to abide.
Yep. So everybody wish Tricky well. Say goodbye to his butthole. He's praying to the porcelain god at the moment. So just make sure you send him his well wishes. But yes, it is Sunday night. It is time for Proven Gamers Trophy Horrors podcast. And I will be your host tonight, Matacon, with Alex. And unfortunately, it's just the dynamic duo tonight because a Yield couldn't be here either. And we just didn't have enough time to get another host on the show. As you all know, my wife V is recovering from surgery, so unfortunately she wouldn't be able to make it tonight. But that hasn't stopped us from developing a packed agenda. So without further ado, let's get into the trophies. Tricky is at level 896 with a total count of 29,531 and 819 platinums. Alex, your trophy, sir?
It says level 499, but I'm level 500. I don't know. Did we, okay. Yeah. So Tricky says they weren't updated. Level 500, total trophy count of 9,601 with a platinum count of 165 in 164 games. While we read the rest of these off, I'm going to go check my total trophies, because if these weren't updated, then I'm going to give myself proper credit.
Okay. Well, then that means we can't trust the rest of these, but we will just go to them anyways. Yield was at level 504 with 9,904 trophies and platinums of 180. I, of course, have not moved at all, so I'm still level 220, 1,309 trophies with 0 platinums because I have not touched the PS5 this week. We'll go into that in a little bit of what I've been playing. Sid was level 879, 26,067 trophies, and 820 platinums.
So correction on mine, I have a total trophy count of 9,626. So 25 more than is on the sheet. So yeah, we're at the mercy of the agenda here, but
yeah, I don't care enough to actually update everybody.
I know. Yield will do that, and Tricky sometimes, but Tricky was too busy. He's updating them now. Well, thanks, Tricky, for updating them now. We're already mid-show.
Man, my first real show hosting, and I've already messing up. Man,
that's not true. You do the lion's share of the work on the agenda, so we're definitely not going to blame you for the updated trophies. It's the one thing Tricky could do. He had one job. And he dropped the ball, like he's dropping things in the toilet.
He's dropping other things.
Yeah. Dropping bombs on him. Luckily, it's in his own house, so it doesn't matter.
It's all good. How was your week, Alex?
You know, as much as I enjoy the holidays, I like the scenery, I like the Christmas lights, love the decorations, and enjoy watching some Christmas movies. We watched Muppet Christmas Carol yesterday while decorating the tree with our ornaments. It's been a stressful week, just work and having to get up early and get together for family gatherings. Like, I like getting together with family, but just having to be somewhere a certain time and work out around your normal schedule, it's a lot. And so, I mean, it's been a good week overall. But just the stress of the holidays, you start to feel it, that week before Thanksgiving, that week before Christmas, that, it can be a lot.
Oh no, I totally get it. And as much as I love seeing all my family and friends during the holidays, I just want to sometimes kick back and relax and not worry about running everywhere. I remember a number of years ago when I lived in Long Island, when V and I would have to travel back to New Jersey or Pennsylvania for the family trips. It was January of 2013, and I know that because that's the year we ended up moving out of Long Island. We took a trip back to New Jersey every weekend in January. And I will tell you this, traveling from Long Island through Staten Island to Jersey is a freaking nightmare. And I hated it. And that was one of the big things that I said, okay, I'm done out here. I need to move back out to back home closer to the family and friends. So I totally see it there. I'm right there with you.
Well, I don't have as much reason to complain as you do. I mean, yeah, there wasn't much traffic on the road today, but we still, have to do the travel. But like, I'm assuming that part of it, the nightmare for you is just the amount of traffic that you get going through, Long Island, Staten Island, like all that. That's really the crux of everything. The frustration is just having to deal with so many other people on the roads, right?
And here's the really messed up thing. It charges, like if I'm going to Long Island, Staten Island charges me to go through it. If I'm coming home, Staten Island charges me to go through it. Like there's no way I can get back to us without getting screwed by Staten Island. So I remember one year I was really stuck because my Easy Pass wasn't getting read and the arm wasn't going up. It wasn't detecting. So I'm honking, and I had a police officer yell at me because like, oh, it's not an emergency. Why are you honking? Because the fucking arm's not going up. What do you want me to do? I got people behind me. I knew it was time to move out of Staten Island. Get this. Okay. Side story. On the day I moved out from Long Island, I was on the Verrazano and I was crossing into Staten Island and I had my U-Haul. I had cash on me and not enough cash for the U-Haul. I thought it was enough, but it was the car. It was the amount that you needed for a car. U-Hauls, they evidently charge you more. I didn't have the cash. And instead of just billing me for it, they took my license, told me to go find an ATM, and then circle back around. So now I'm driving around in a rented U-Haul without my license, trying to find an ATM to get enough cash for this toll. How fucked up is that? Like, really? That's what you do on my way out? Good riddance.
You're a much happier man now, aren't you?
Extremely happy. I can count on zero hands the number of times I've been back out to Long Island.
Did you watch any Die Hard this week?
No, but I do have that what is that? The Advent calendar where Hans Gruber just gets closer and closer to the ground each day. Yeah. It's ground's coming up real quick, Hans.
Is there like a splat on the ground, like a red splat where he lands, or is it just like, oh no, he's down? Is it family friendly Advent calendar?
It's as family friendly as a guy falling outside of a building can be.
They ought to have like Gushers be the last like treat that you pull out of the Advent calendar. You remember Gushers, don't you?
Yep.
Just a red gusher at the bottom, because that's what happens to good old Hans Gruber when he hits that pavement.
I like that idea, but we're not here to talk about Hans Gruber or debate the Die Hard thing anymore. We are here to talk about the games we've been playing.
Week. I don't care what Daryl says.
Well, guess what? I'm hosting the show, so what I say goes tonight. Anyways, what have you been playing this week, Alex?
I have been playing more of Assassin's Creed Syndicate. I'm on memory sequence 8, I believe, of 9 total ones, so I'm getting close to the end, getting closer to the Platinum Trophy, after which I'm going to download the Jack the Ripper DLC and play through that, because I actually hear that's very good. I talked in length about Syndicate last week, and I'll just kind of 2 more points on it, because I don't want to, just, again, go on a 20-minute spiel about the game. I want to let people know everything I feel about a game to give them a good idea. That's why people come here, is for our experiences. So even when Tricky tries to make me feel bad for talking a lot, I still like to get the word out there so, people get a good idea of my experience. But the 2 other things I want to mention is, Assassin's Creed, like, they're very intricate with their climbing and their traversal. And it's kind of cool that you can, like, climb up buildings and, like in this, you have like a zipline feature that'll zoom you up buildings right away. But part of the negative of that is also, like, if you're trying to get down a building really quickly, like, you're not, Superman or the Hulk, so you can't just jump down without death. You can only jump from a certain height. Now, there are certain places where there's, like, a haystack or something, a stack of leaves, and you can do a leap of faith in there from the top of the building, and you're fine. But for the most part, because of the way the traversal works, you have to go down a building at times, like, you know, little brick by brick or windowsill by windowsill. So it can take forever to get down or just be really frustrating. And like there's a target you're supposed to chase or to follow or tail. And you may be trying to get down to a carriage, but it's like, just like, buh, buh, buh. And you're just going down. So that, like, as intricate as the traversal can be, it does work negatively against you in missions if you're trying to be quick about it. Because you can't just, like I said, jump off a 3-story building and survive. I think really the most annoying thing about the Assassin's Creed, it's not just Syndicate. This is, the series as a whole. One of the things that made the first game so special is it did have that outside the Animus aspect to it. And I don't know if Ubisoft got feedback that people really hated that part, but in Origins and in this game, the outside the Animus stuff is just pointless. It's like, I get that people want to play as the assassin in the Animus, and that's maybe the fun part, but they've kind of made everything outside the Animus, which was a massive part of the first game, and the Ezio trilogy as well, just completely fucking useless. Like, why? What's the point of this? Why do we do this? So it's like almost like they've killed off that segment of the game. And like I said, that's not just something that's an issue with Syndicate. It was also in Origins, and I'm assuming, based on the way they treated it in these two games, it's the same in the other Assassin's Creed games. So I don't know why Ubisoft made that decision to move away mostly from the outside the Animus segments. Maybe it's when they killed off Desmond, but at this point, I don't even know why they still do them, because they're almost pointless. But so my two final thoughts there on Assassin's Creed Syndicate. By the time we record next, I should have the Platinum Trophy, hopefully. But yeah, I mean, it's a good game. I would say, a 7 out of 10. I think really the biggest knock is that it's not bad. It's just everything that's bad about the Assassin's Creed series annual releases. It's like every negative thing you can think about that, there is about this game. Overall, like a good game, but just getting into that annual release schedule just really feels... It just doesn't feel great when you're playing, so much of the same game over and over again. So that's the biggest knock game. It's the game I can have. And it really is what keeps it from feeling special for me. So that's what I've been playing, other than Rocket League and the Frosty Fest. But yeah, Matt, I'm interested to hear what you've been playing.
Well, before that, I go back to my pedigree with the Assassin's Creed series, and I remember picking up, it was the same day I picked up Crysis. And I was playing them both, and I was excited about Assassin's Creed because I love stealth-based games, and I love, Tenchu and Metal Gear Solid and all that stuff. And then I started playing it, and it was like this high-tech Animus thing. And it was really cool at first. And the end of Assassin's Creed 1 kind of gave you that, oh, okay, cool. There's some connection between the old world and the new world by Desmond having the eagle sight. And then as the series went on, I think I agree with you. It just kind of became something that they tacked on because people were more interested into what was happening in the past than the whatever companies were doing in the future. So I'm just saying that to bring up that it kind of lost me after Assassin's Creed 2, and I'm in a way happy I never went back. What I've been playing this week has been a mixture of things. I've gotten back into Monster Hunter Rise. My one buddy and I have just been playing some games, just getting some hunts out of the way, helping him get his gear in place, because it's one of those comfort games that we love playing, and we sometimes forget how much fun it is just to go and do a hunt or two and then go on to do something else. I've also been playing a whole lot of Super Mario Superstars, I think it is. It's the best of collection on the Switch.
You threw me for a loop there. I definitely thought you were going to say Wonder.
No, I still have Wonder. That's still on my list of games to complete. But Super Mario Mario Party Superstars, that's the game. And it's so much fun. It's my most hated fun game to play. Because I would tell you, we were playing one game and I was the only one with a star, and I had to go take care of Zelda real quick, and I came back and my star was gone. And I looked at my one friend who now suddenly had a star, and that's the type of game that there's betrayals and then there's betrayals. So we were playing a whole bunch of that. And then I've done a bunch of stuff in VR. I played more Lego Brick Tales, which again is a fun little VR game. The entire board gets set up in front of you and you get to build things to solve puzzles. But the main thing I want to discuss this week is Asgard's Wrath 2, which dropped on the 15th. It's a first-person fantasy adventure following the first Asgard's Wrath, where you played a fledgling god who Loki tried to help and then ended up betraying. So now you're trying to find your way back to him, and you might enjoy this. It starts you in ancient Egypt, and you play a tomb thief known as Abraxas, who has his own issues with the gods. And one of the cool features of this is you go into like a puzzle room, and you press a button, and because you've possessed the player, when you press a button, you now get your God view. And your God view is how you're solving puzzles by like moving levers or objects. And then you can go back down into the player and move him around the board and then come back to being the God level. So that way you can maneuver more things and make him get around the room a lot easier. So all this to say, it's got really interesting puzzle features. And then it's also got really decent combat. You know, I've been facing 3 or 4 enemies in a single combat arena, and they're surrounding me, launching stuff from across the room. You've got a dash. I've got a melee weapon. I've got a ranged weapon. And then it also has this cool thing where it's like a roguelite mode where you can go into the worlds between. And the entire story here is that the Sisters of Fate are trying to help you correct the things Loki has done.
Hey, wait a minute. I killed them in God of War 3. No, God of War 2. That's what it was. I killed them in God of War 2. They're back?
Well, obviously you didn't kill them well enough.
Oh, I assure you, sir, they got punished for their crimes.
Well, I've got 3 of them staring in front of me and weaving their little threads, so that's obviously something is amiss here. But you meet this player called DM, their initials, and they put you into like a little roguelite mode where you go into dungeons and you just have to, go as far as you can. And that's where you start getting things like power-ups or god features or feats that you could do in the middle of combat. You know, you can get a shield that you pull off your back to help deflect things. It's got riposting, it's got countering and all sorts of fun stuff. It's really in-depth, and it actually came free when I got my Quest 3 headset. And it's amazing that they gave this game out for free with how much content is here. But the main crux of the story that so far, as I said, you're in this mortal, his name's Abraxas, and you're trying to help Horus, who is the son of Osiris and Isis, who were betrayed by a god. Set, yes.
That is Osiris's brother.
Okay, yeah. So Set wanted Osiris's kingdom and ended up killing Osiris and Isis and sent Horus away. Horus came back. Set ended up blinding Horus and cast him out. So you're now there playing the equalizer. So as I said, you might enjoy the storyline, at least from the ancient Egyptian perspective, but I think it may go into other realms, because I know the first game was based heavily in Norse mythology. Here we've got Egyptian. I'm not sure what else it's going to do from there, but it's an amazing game. I throw on the headset, I feel like I'm there. The textures aren't the greatest, but the combat is pretty damn good for what it can be. So good, I've already smashed my hand into a bookshelf.
I assume inadvertently, because you were just so into it?
Yep. Luckily, nothing broke on either end.
Yeah, I was gonna say we can always buy a new bookshelf, but the hand, it can heal, but you'd rather not do that. You'd rather just have IKEA deliver a new bookshelf.
Yeah, no, and as a result, I kind of drew in my guardian boundary a little bit closer to make sure I don't mess that one up again. But that's all I've been playing this week.
Righteous.
All right. With that, we're going into our topics. And first, Activision Blizzard agrees to settle California case alleging discrimination against women. This comes from CNBC, Jordan Novitt. If you remember, Activision Blizzard's been the subject of a number of lawsuits regarding discrimination, unfair workplace practices, sexual harassment, things like that, and actually kind of led to them being in a position for Microsoft to buy them. So what happened is the California Civil Rights Department stated Activision Blizzard will pay nearly $55 million to provide relief to female employees and contractors from October 2015 and December 2022, and which will cover legal fees, and with $46 million of that going to the affected women. And this was one of the two cases AB was dealing with over the past 2 years, when they also settled the U.S. Equal Employment Opportunity Commission lawsuit, which that was around 2 years ago, and they settled that for around $18 million. So the quote from Activision Blizzard was, "We appreciate the importance of the issue addressed in this agreement, and we are dedicated to fully implementing all the new obligations we have assumed as part of it." So all's that to say is Activision Blizzard is finally paying out for their years of negligence and abuse. Alex, how do you feel about all that?
It's one step in the healing process for Activision Blizzard. The next step is to have Microsoft clean house and make sure that everything that needs to be addressed is addressed. Obviously, Bobby Kotick has to go at some point, hopefully sooner rather than later. But it is one step in the right direction. It's not going to fix everything because you can't just throw money at something and fix it, but certainly something that is good. And also notice that MSNBC picked this up, like a mainstream news outlet. This wasn't just like IGN or Eurogamer or something. This was a mainstream news outlet. So this is a big story. This goes beyond, this transcends the whole gaming journalism and the blogs and all that. So big story, and hopefully this is just one brick in the road of Microsoft making the situation right, because obviously after all these years, Activision wasn't going to do it without being pushed very, very hard to do it. So that's one of the good things about Microsoft buying Activision. That isn't just, hey, if you have Game Pass, you're going to get a bunch of games for free now in your library. It's that any of these injustices that were, happening at Activision are probably going to be under a larger microscope now.
Yeah, I seriously hope, you mentioned one step of the healing process for Activision Blizzard to fix what they've wronged, but also a step in the healing and justice for those wronged for their mismanagement and poor leadership. So, like you said, hopefully with Bobby, the fuck up Kotick being gone, and Phil Save the Nation Spencer coming in and overseeing it all, hopefully we'll get some more justice in the end and get some more bad apples out and get Activision Blizzard back to doing what they should be doing, is making great games.
And some people may not care about this. I'm sure some people look past this and said, well, I'm still going to buy their games, obviously, because people still buy Call of Duty. But for those who did see the situation and didn't, like me, and it's like, you know what? I can hold off on buying Activision games until they clear this up, because I just really don't care all that much. It does go, to the victims and the people that work there. It helps, but it also goes to rebuilding trust with the gaming community. Because honestly, if I see something like this at a publisher or developer and they're not taking care of it, or they're ignoring it, or trying to sweep it under the rug, do I really want to give my money to that group? I mean, not really. So it does go towards, not just fixing the situation within Activision, but Activision's image as well. And unfortunately, Microsoft is now tasked with helping rebuild the image of Activision Blizzard that was so horrendously screwed before.
Well, and I think you also said something else. It's more than just Activision Blizzard. It goes back to whether we support those developers or not. And I can tell you, my friends and I were interested in Diablo 4 at one point, but after everything Blizzard has been doing under Activision, we said, you know what? We can wait. It's not necessary for us to buy that game. There's plenty of other games to play.
Yeah, there was
I move on,
there was that new Crash game, the Crash Team Rumble or whatever it's called, Crash Rumble. The seasons based multiplayer game that I was like, you know what? This isn't something. It's not like a game I have to have, so I'll pass it by. But I mean, if this situation hadn't gone on, I might have given it a try. I do like my Crash Bandicoot, and it may be honestly the last Crash Bandicoot we ever get on PlayStation.
Yeah. Before I move on to the next topic, just introducing in chat, Gaz Davis comes in, says, evening, just letting you know the Rarity League table has been updated. Write-up will be tomorrow, 10 days left in the contest, so make sure you start getting all those secret trophies you've been hiding, tricky, and make sure you all get your entries into that contest before it ends. Make every moment count.
Gareth, I've gotten nice and comfy in my spot behind you there at 6th place, so hopefully no one overtook me. Someone might have, but I'm I stopped going for the rare trophies a long time ago. It just, the burnout was real. I wasn't going to catch the people at the top, so I just tried to nuzzle into my little cozy space.
Next on the agenda, epic win. Jury decides Google has illegal monopoly in App Store fight. This is brought to us by The Verge, written by Sean Hollister. After nearly 2 years in court, Epic finally has a win. A jury found Google illegally held a monopoly through its Google Play app and Google Play billing services. The fight originally began between Epic's Tim Sweeney and Apple, where the courts decided Apple did not have a monopoly. The latest court decision found Google has a monopoly power in Android phones, apps, and distribution market and in-app billing service markets. This behavior is what the jury believes caused damages to Epic. At the heart of the matter is the way Google ties its payment system into the app and how it has a revenue sharing deal between smartphone makers and big game developers that kept other app stores down and away. So I think we had talked about this a little bit in our chat, and we said, well, wait, why is this different from Apple? And it seems there may have been some stuff behind the curtain that Apple was doing dealings that may have prevented other apps from coming in.
You mean Google?
Google, yes. Sorry. Thank you. The only thing I have to say about that, what interested me in all this, is you can unlock a Google phone and sideload apps and create different ways for people to get apps. Itch.io has always been a way for people to get apps and whatnot. So I'm a little confused, but I'm also not a legal expert. Alex, are you a legal expert?
I am not. But I mean, I guess that it's, so the thing is that they were giving deals with developers, revenue sharing deals that maybe were making things exclusive to their platform.
That's kind of what it sounds like. I tried reading the article multiple times, and it's again goes a little bit beyond me, but it definitely sounds like there were some backroom deals. And
that, of course, that matters because if a game is only available on one platform or only available on Google as opposed to iOS, you can certainly, charge whatever you want for that. There's not competition to where you have to mind your price because, well, people want to play it. Tough shit.
Yeah, like I said, it's a whole lot of legal stuff going on behind the scenes that I just said, something. I'm glad I'm not on that jury and I didn't have to sit there and figure it out the entire time. But it obviously Google is already going to go in. They've already said that they're going to appeal the decision, and we'll see where it goes. But this has been the first thing Epic has had a win in a court during this whole drama over this entire time. So I don't think
they initially
give it up
won
so
against
easily.
Apple, right?
Well, it's not that they won against Apple. I think what ended up happening, if I remember correctly, the court said Apple did not have a monopoly. But then they came back in and said, but Epic might have received some damages from it. So therefore, it was kind of like a wash in the end. What's interesting about this case is Epic asked the court to say, please bar them from doing this ever again. And the court came back and admonished Epic and said, we are not the do not break it. We are not the do not break the law portion of the justice system. If they break it again, you circle back and come back to us. We're not here to enforce the law, so to speak. So it was an interesting little tidbit about Epic trying to extend their reach far beyond what they've brought to the table.
Yeah, I mean, and obviously they're going up against, these massive platforms in Apple and Google and trying, I mean, they obviously get a win here. Google is going to appeal, so that could be reversed at some point. Or Google, it could be found, the next decision could be in Google's favor. And well, that obviously nullifies what was done here. But Epic, I don't know if Epic's in the right or not, because I don't know what other developers are joining in on this, but they definitely seem to be trying to get as much money as they can, and by going after these big platforms, because that's one of the things is they complained about with Apple is the revenue sharing, just how much of a cut Apple took. So they, Yeah, I don't know what it is with Epic. Ballsy, yes, but they're also throwing a lot of money at these court cases against these massive companies, which Google and Apple are both bigger than Epic. So maybe it'll pay off this time?
And you bring up the cost sharing because next on our agenda, Tim Sweeney's out there running his mouth saying he's open to Fortnite on Steam or any other, quote, serious stores, end quote, but that end of these ridiculous 30% fees is a requirement. This comes from PC Gamer, written by Harvey Randall. Tim Sweeney, about 2 days ago, tweeted out, "We'll compete and will also put Fortnite on any serious store that gives all developers an awesome deal. Steam, Microsoft, One Store, anyone. Give all developers an awesome deal and we'll support you. The end of these ridiculous 30% fees is near." Came from Epic after the latest court win. While a shot isn't specifically calling out Steam, it's clear that it's likely that Sweeney's targeted them with that little comment. It should be said many developers aren't happy with Steam's 30% cut, with a 2021 GDC survey finding only 7% of developers find it justified. However, it should be noted Steam does offer additional discounts to developers making more revenue. For instance, if a game makes more than $10 million in revenue, Steam only takes 25%. After $50 million, they only take 20%. Though it should be noted, you remember how we had a story a couple weeks ago that Epic was not profitable in their little Steam or their Steam competitor venture?
Yeah, Epic Game Store.
Yeah, it's funny to me that they're out here talking about the end of the 30% cut is near, but they're not profitable. Are they expecting other companies just to eat it, just to get developers on their platform? What other developer is out there trying to make another platform? Ubisoft has it, but it's not great. Rockstar went out there, not great. EA went out there and made theirs. They came crawling back to Steam. So it's crazy that Tim Sweeney's out there trying to be the forefront for all developers. You know, he's every man's developer, but they charge quite a mint for people to use Unreal Engine. And they certainly are not in a place to be like, yeah, we're just like the small developers. So it's confusing and perplexing to me that he's out there being like, this 30% fee is too much. We only charge 12%. Okay, and you're not turning a profit. How long can you keep that up, Tim?
Well, and as you mentioned, the Steam is, that 30% cut, same as Apple. So these platforms are it's not like Apple is charging 60% and no one else is even near. They're charging the same. They're taking the same cut. So obviously that's what these platforms have settled on. So for Epic to go in and think that they're going to topple Google and Apple and then take on Steam, which is crushing them as far as, PC users, it's kind of ballsy, but it's also kind of stupid. I mean, it may work out for them, but when both Apple and Steam are charging the same to host your game on their platform, it's kind of telling that it's what these companies have agreed on is a fair price. So I don't know how you beat that. If it was just one company, I get it, but when it's multiple companies, how do you go against that?
I kind of wonder if Tim Sweeney and Epic are going to take a swing at Valve in the legal system by trying to say that they now have an illegal monopoly, which is laughable because you have all these other stores. But as I said, EA came crawling back, being like, yeah, we don't want to do this anymore. We're going to start putting your games back on your store. It's just easier that way. Epic is just so power hungry. And this is the issue most people, including me, took with it. It's not that they want money. All these companies want money, but they're using money to force their way into a market, and they're not giving us any They're lacking features that Steam has had for years. And I've said this multiple times before. Every World of Warcraft killer that came out said, oh, we've got the answer. We're going to do it this way. And then they're missing all of the convenient features WoW has developed over the years. And it's like, if you want to kill them, be better than them. Don't be worse. Because that's exactly what Epic is in my mind, as far as Epic Game Store versus Steam.
Well, just ask John Tancredi and he'll tell you all about it. But here's the thing. Epic is looking to get more money. They're not going to charge you less if they take more of a cut from their games being hosted on, these other stores. You're still going to get charged the same thing. So they don't care about you as a consumer. They just care that they can make more money. So
yeah, it's funny that they're trying to celebrate this as a win for the devs, when in reality they just want to expand their market as much. Speaking of expanding, where's a company who's not expanding? The Sea of Stars developer removes the Completionist cameo and amid the charity controversy. This comes from Dextero, written by Carver Fisher. The massive hit retro RPG Sea of Stars had a cameo starring famous YouTuber, the completionist Jirard Khalil. Sea of Stars devs said that while it's not their place to pass judgment, they do make it a priority to maintain a positive and optimistic space. The cameo involved an NPC known as Jirard the Constructionist and has now been patched out of the game. This comes after weeks of mudslinging between YouTubers Carl Jobst and some ordinary gamers Mutahar, who accused the Completionist of defrauding his fans by withholding funds that were allegedly to go to the Open Hands Foundation charity the Completionist has claimed to support for years. And this is kind of going to lead into one of our questions. Tricky, go ahead and hit the music. Time to check my social media, yeah. And the reason I bring this up is because the first question we got on our community questions night was from Roberto, and he said, takes on the Jirard situation, how this may affect other charities like Extra Life, Stack Up, TakeThis.org, and so on. Alex, you said you might have read up a little bit on the situation. How much have you paid attention
I've
to
actually watched a lot of videos, and I've even gone... I've watched Jirard's response. He's posted a response to this. He was silent for weeks, and he posted a response, and that video currently has, I think, last time I saw, 19,000 likes, but it's been at 19,000 for days, and 71,000 dislikes. And basically, when you look at all the comments, in the thousands and thousands of comments, people are just dunking on Jirard, just shitting on him, sharing their disappointment, just kind of, I don't want to say wagging their finger at him, because that seems like very, kind of too light, but people are really taking a go at Jirard. And for those who don't know, he and his dad started the Open Hand Foundation, which was supposed to go to a dementia research because Jirard's mother died when he was 25 because she had dementia. They started the charity, and it was funded by various different things. They took donations through IndieLand. There was a golf tournament that his dad hosted that, as you mentioned, Mutahar and Carl went through publicly filed IRS documents, tax documents, to go over, look at potential missing money that wasn't reported that was earned through certain things. But really the crux of it was that over the course of 10 years, when he said that, he was on stream saying, they were working with the University of San Francisco and other places, saying that they were a main funder. Essentially, they, for 10 years, had not donated a single cent anywhere. But they were continuing to collect money. And they finally donated, about 2 or 3 weeks after Mutahar and Carl called them out, they donated $600,000. I can't remember the name of the place, but they did donate the money. So they held on to money all these years, and they finally got called out, and then they donated it. And it's just a really bad situation. A lot of people... I watched some of the Completionist videos, and, he always did good content. I liked his commentary on games, but this is a situation where, and if you watch his response video, he doesn't really apologize. It's very much like it was written by lawyers, and just like, he very much seems to care about his reputation, but also he's, not taking any responsibility because obviously they don't want to get any legal trouble, so I'm sure it was written by lawyers and okayed by them. He says stuff like, I'm sorry if you felt like you were misled or something like that. He doesn't say, I'm sorry I misled you. He said, I'm sorry you felt misled. He also at the end threatens to sue Mutahar and Carl, gets very angry because these two guys used official documents from the IRS to call him out. And it was a piss poor response. It was a terrible apology. And like I said, everyone essentially on that video is dunking on him. Carl and Mutahar have released response videos to it, and none of it makes Jirard look good. Honestly, the best thing for that guy to do is delete his channel and find something else to do. Because as far as him being a content creator, I think any video he posts in the future will just get a cascade of hate. People will ridicule him. He just needs to find something else to do, because this has not only damaged his image, his brand, the charity. He said that he is stepping away from the Open Hand Foundation, and also that he is IndieLand, which was a major source of funding for the Open Hand Foundation. He is no longer charitable donation. They're no longer taking charitable donations. So it's basically, going to be an event where, if developers want him to play their indie games or promote their indie games, he'll do that. But the charitable aspect of it is now gone. So he's now damaged and basically killed off the charity that was supposed to be in honor of his mother. And as far as a wider thing, the wider ranging effects of this are that, you should always question what charities you give them to, but I think this has done a lot to damage charities in general. I know I'm not going to call anyone specific, but I think this definitely leaves a bad taste in people's mouths because people trusted Jirard. And I definitely think that, there's all kinds of assumptions here and accusations and all that. He even calls that people have accused him of embezzling money, using the funds collected through donations for stuff that was not where it was not supposed to go. So could this? Tricky asked in the chat, will this hurt small charities like Extra Life? Well, Extra Life really isn't a small charity, but could it hurt Extra Life? It could make people think about twice about donating. I'm not saying anything negative about Extra Life, but I think in general this puts it dampens people's desire to donate to causes unless they, the people that, these groups and these organizations can show receipts as to where money has been given, where funds have been given. People like to donate, people want to help out, but if they can't trust you, they're definitely not going to do that. So this not only hurts Jirard and his brand and the Open Hand Foundation, it hurts like charities overall, especially done through YouTube or the video game industry. Could it hurt Extra Life? Absolutely. I hope not, because I think Extra Life has always been a very reputably run organization and group. But yeah, this has wider ranging effects than just one guy's YouTube channel. So in the end, I think Jirard is getting what he deserves. I think he needs to be run off of YouTube. People talk about hating cancel culture, but what he did and what his family did was not right. The money should have been donated much sooner. And he should have accepted more responsibility and not threatened to sue these two guys who exposed him. Because let's be honest, without Mutahar and Carl, the big question is, would they have donated the money? And considering they held onto it for so long, the answer is probably no, they wouldn't have. So Mutahar and Carl got this money donated, which is phenomenal. So there's just seems to be a lot of I don't think the charity was started maliciously, but I think that it's certainly turned into something that is basically very wrong. You can't hold on to money that long. And one of the big things is that through inflation, the money lost value just sitting there in an account. They had used the excuse that, we were looking for partners to donate to, all along on charity streams. He was talking about the University of San Francisco and other groups that they were donating to, and while not donating the money. So you say that, you not only say that, but you also say, well, we have trouble finding someone to donate to. And then weeks after you're called out, you send $600,000 to a benefactor. So it's just a really gross situation. I think Jirard and his family, I hope they get investigated by the IRS. One of the things that Mutahar and Carl did was they called on people to submit this to the IRS to have them looked into. So I hope that they do pay for what they've done, because I definitely think they've wronged a lot of people and shaken a lot of people's confidence. Like I said, not just one guy's YouTube channel, but in donating, being generous in overall. So, basically I really hope Jirard just kind of disappears, deletes his YouTube channel, does something else, goes to work at a Burger King or gets an office job somewhere as a receptionist, because I'm sorry, you've broken everyone's trust, and I think that as far as being a public figure, you kind of ruined your reputation, and you just kind of got to go away. That's my thought. I have no sympathy for the guy at all. I feel bad because he lost his mother, but what this has turned into has been very ugly, and just go away, dude. You're getting exactly what all the ridicule and hate you're getting, you deserve. Matt, I don't know if you feel any differently.
Yes and no. The fact that it took this long to donate that money, you're absolutely right. That in and of itself is a huge problem, because a lot of these charities, and I was reading some Reddit comments, a lot of these charities and the way that these donations work is these charities are constantly using up the funds given to them. And if it's not there today, there's no guarantee that they'll be able to operate tomorrow. So holding on to all of this money is a massive problem, because the charities are burned through cash trying to get it to the people that need it. They're spending it on the things that needs to be spent on: equipment, labor, travel, shipping, all that stuff. I will say this: I didn't listen to Jirard's response, nor did I listen to Carl's response. And speaking as an investigator, I gotta wonder if Carl and Mutahar are out there asking people asking people to go out there and submit to the IRS. What's stopping them? What's stopping them from processing that?
Well, they may have. They may have submitted.
But so that's my issue. By putting all of his investigative information out there, Carl has broken the number one rule of investigative reporting. He's too much into this personally. Just from the commentary I've seen, he seems very emotional about it. And it is an emotional thing, but he's bringing too much emotion into it as an investigator. If there are laws broken, he needs to be working directly with the investigators at the IRS, not the court of public opinion, because that is giving Jirard information to either counter or disprove. And interestingly, in Carl's tweet immediately after Jirard put up his response video, Carl even put in his tweet and said, "Interesting on some of the things I had wrong." As an investigator, you're going out there and admitting that things that you did were wrong, that you had wrong, that you misunderstood. It when you're trying to prove something, you get all that stuff out of the way beforehand. As an investigator, you don't go to the table unless you know the answer. And it smacks of me of that Epic versus Apple. It's billionaires going after each other. And I'm not saying that Jirard or Carl are billionaires, but it's two YouTubers out there fighting with their clout, going after one another. And frankly, it really pisses me off that they're doing this in the court of public opinion, because if this truly was a crime and a charity is being defrauded or not being funded as promised, there needs to be consequences for that. And more than just delete his channel, move on with his life. There's real ramifications for tax fraud, because you can bet your bottom dollar if those funds were held up in escrow somewhere, they were being used as a tax write-off by somebody, and the IRS will certainly have something to say about that, much less the people that need to get that money. I say it every year. Every time I watch the speed runs by Games Done Quick, and it always seems weird because at the end of the year, they always seem to break their records. And it's usually like a 7-day event, 8-day event. And the first 4 or 5 days, they seem to generate, let's say, $400,000, $500,000. But then in the last 3 days, somewhere $2.3 million comes out, and they end up donating $3 million plus to Doctors Without Borders or Prevent Cancer Foundation. It's like, are they holding stuff on the back end to generate fervor and generate more donations from the public? What information are we not being told? And I liken it to this, going back to the question at hand. Does this hurt other charities? I think it absolutely hurts other people's perception of these companies trying to run for charities. I don't think it hurts charities directly, other than people stop donating. But I'll leave this as my final point. When I go into a store and I get presented with that, hey, do you want to donate an extra $1 to the Susan B. Komen Foundation or help kids or help puppies, whatever it is, I press no. And it's because I'm not giving that company credit for my tax donation. If I'm going if I'm going to donate to a company, I'll donate directly to the company. That way I get the tax write-off, not somebody else getting credit for the money I'm giving out there. And as a result, I just want to make sure that the money does reach who they're going to, which is why I try to research and see how the money's been dealt in the past. If Doctors Without Borders says, we have these events every year, but we never see the money, that would be one thing. And I'd say, okay, that's an issue and that needs to be brought to light. But like I said, it just seems like this is a bunch of YouTubers fighting at each other, trying to prove the other one wrong, going, no, he's a poopy head. No, he's a poopy head. This is why he's a poopy head. Well, you idiot, go to the law enforcement with that. Go to the authorities with your investigative work. Carl Jobst had minor success proving speedrunners were cheating. Now he's moving on to bigger and better things. How about you do it properly and don't get so emotional about it? And if the completionist is messing up and using these funds for his own personal gain and tax benefits, he needs to fuck off and like you said, do something else with his life and be held accountable for anything he has done wrong, proven in a court. That's where I'll leave it at there.
Yeah, Matt, I do want to say that I think that I understand the angle that you're coming at it from, but in the end, the money was donated and it was that public pressure that made him do it. And also, like I said, he's stepping away from the foundation. IndieLand is no longer doing charitable donations. So had they not said anything, and who knows if they had submitted to the IRS, if they would have actually looked at it,
I think there's two aspects. You're absolutely right. Their initial action did put pressure on and got the money donated. Great. But now it's a YouTuber tug of war. And that's where I'm starting to get pissed off at both sides, because now they're going at it. A couple years ago, Angry Joe got accused of sexual harassment and whatnot. And he came out, he said, nope, this is an issue and this will be the last time I speak on it. And my lawyers are already involved and this is now a court issue. And that was it. There was no more back and forth. But now you've got YouTubers who are trying to one up each other on the game. And it's now just, I see it as bickering as opposed to any real solution.
As far as I know, last I looked, Jirard said the one video he did was the only one he's going to do. And I think that Muda has put out more videos, but I think he's only done one response to it. And I think Carl has only done one response to it as well. But I think that what you see as bickering is, Jirard came out to defend himself, did a very poor job. But then Muda and Carl came out to defend themselves. And I think they should be able to do that. And if someone says, oh, I'm going to sue you, blah, 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 them pointing out all the issues with what he's saying and where he contradicts himself, I just don't have an issue with that. I don't think that's bickering. I don't think defending yourself is bickering. Now, if this is like a slap fight for years now, then yeah, I can understand that. Or if they just keep going month after month. But releasing a response video to a very public issue where someone calls you out and says, I'm probably going to sue you or I'm going to threaten legal action, I don't know. I don't necessarily have a problem with that because I see it as defending yourself. That's my thing.
And there is some value in that, because what's going to end up happening is now all of Jirard's cronies are going to come out and start attacking Carl for being false. Because honestly, each side's fans are blind to the other's faults, so to speak. So you're going to have loyalists to Carl going after Jirard. You're going to have Jirard's loyalists going after Carl and Mudahar. And they're not going to do any critical thinking. I think that's the only thing I'm trying to preach here is just do some critical thinking and don't just blindly listen to one side or the other.
Yeah, it's a shitty situation, though.
Yeah. So hopefully, Roberto, that answers your question. On to the next one, on a lighter topic. Jeremy writes in and goes, what are your thoughts on the PlayStation Store not giving out refunds? I bought a game recently that's literally broken. Poor frame rates, crashes. Not even an hour of trying to play. I contacted support, and they told me because it was installed, it's not eligible, and basically shut the conversation down. Steam gives you a few hours. If you don't like the game, they'll refund it, no questions asked. Joe Priestley writes in and says you should not get refunds when buying media. And Jeremy says, I agree to an extent. If the game isn't working properly and crashing, then not getting at all what I paid for, I just feel like it's justified. I thought PlayStation... Oh, no, it's only when something is not installed, right?
Yeah, I had an issue, and I don't know if Jeremy was around to hear the story, but I had an issue with PlayStation where I bought DLC for Hot Wheels Unleashed, and it was the wrong DLC. And I think there were different versions of the DLC, and I bought the wrong version, that being either PS4 or PS5. And I got on the phone with Sony support, and the guy on the phone told me to open up the game and try to access the DLC. Well, when I was done with him and went to somebody else, they said, well, we can't refund you because, the DLC has been played. I'm like, okay, but I haven't been able to access the content, and your Sony rep told me to do so. And then after I told them that I waived did the Jedi mind track of mentioning Xbox Game Pass and said I was going to buy Shredder's Revenge on the Switch, they caved and gave me my refund back. But here's my view on this, and I disagree with Joe entirely. I like Steam and that, hey, you want to try it, you want to play it, you don't like it, a certain amount of time, under 2 hours of playtime or something like that. Matt, you would know the specifics more than I would, but giving people a certain window during which they can return a game, especially after Cyberpunk, is in a world that is increasingly digital, and Sony is one at the forefront of that. They are pushing that along with Microsoft. You need to offer refunds for stuff like this. Jeremy should be given a refund for a broken game. They shouldn't just say, oh, hey, sorry about your luck. The game's broken. You bought it, blah, blah, blah. You're selling a broken game on your store. You sold me a broken game. Whether you put out or not, I bought it through your store. So I don't care whether you have to contact the developer or the publisher and get money from them. You need to give me my money back. You cannot try to get rid of physical disc and cut out the middleman and just have digital sales, and then when stuff like this happens, not give people refunds. You have to be more willing to have an avenue where people can get refunds. Now, should somebody be able to get all the trophies and, a week later say, okay, I don't want this game, I'm sorry, Sony? No. But that's why Steam, who has, even the Epic Game Store, they have more experience with this stuff, and that's why they have these protocols set. It's like, okay, you can return a game, but there are certain, requirements we have. But Sony just saying, no, you can't return a game, I'm sorry, that's ridiculous.
So, and Tricky brought up something in the chat, and I was going to refute that. Here's the thing, and again, I also disagree with Joseph. If you were in the UK or England, you would absolutely be entitled to your refund because they have consumer protection laws over that. It doesn't matter whether it's physical or digital. Steam allows you to refund a game, as does Epic Game Store, if you have under 2 hours of play and it's within 14 days of your purchase. And I've tried to do refunds over 14 days, even though I had less than 2 hours of play. And the system came back and said, no, you can always go back and ask for a manual review, but I'm not going to press the button, because then if somebody's just always buying games and they're refunding games every day, there's also going to be limits on that capability. Just like if you were to go to a store, for those of you who don't know, I used to do loss prevention for a big box retailer, and we had a system in place that if somebody was doing too many physical returns, it would block them from the system, because that's not normal. And I should say, non-receipted returns. If you had a receipt, as long as, it wasn't returned off that receipt already. Anyway, the point being here is absolutely companies need to keep up with the times and technology. If you're going to be offering digital games, you better be offering a way to do digital refunds off of that. And why it's important, because in chat, Tricky said, this is no different than buying CDs that you can copy and try to return it. I disagree, because copying games and whatnot is not as widely available as copying a CD is. Back when CDs were a thing and the regular media, absolutely. People were trying to buy them and figure out ways to copy them and then return them. And as the technology became more widely available to copy CDs, then stores started saying, all right, if you open a CD, you can't copy it, because that's a media that can be duplicated and passed out. Games are not as easy, and it's not as widely available that people are copying PS5 games or Xbox games. I mean, Nintendo has been facing the digital onslaught and piracy issue for years, to the point where they still won't let you buy old games because they think that you're somehow going to take out their revenue streams. Tricky, they're making emulators not that's an entirely different story because it's old stuff. The issue you have is digital games downloaded to a system should absolutely be refundable, because if it's an issue, I think a couple years ago, Sony on PlayStation had a game called Black Tiger that was so bad they issued refunds. Just a few years ago, like you said, Cyberpunk, they issued refunds because something is bad. And if it's on PlayStation and Jeremy had an issue playing it on his PlayStation and support couldn't help him get it working, then they absolutely need to refund that, because the only option, and it's a nuclear option, and I never recommend this, but you call your credit card company or the company you bought that on and issue a chargeback. Sony will kill your account for that. But if that's the way to send a message, then that's the way to send a message. Unfortunately, it affects you more than it does Sony. The problem here is as with everything, the laws have not caught up, and the consumer protection laws have not caught up to the technology. We'll get there at some point. The European Union already has a number of consumer protections. We just need to get that over here. And that actually is a big reason why Steam started offering refunds. And it's simple. They turn around, they look, less than 2 hours, less than 2 weeks, refunded, removed from your library, back to your method of payment. Simple. If Steam can do it, Sony can do it, Xbox can do it, Nintendo certainly can do it. So I don't see the issue. It's not like you're copying a game, and not everybody is copying games tricky. Everybody will copy CDs. It's the reason I go to Amazon to download DRM-free audio, because that way I can put it on the systems I want where I want to take it. That's not that easy. And speaking as a person who loves to emulate games, it is not that easy with these later systems. So, anything else on that, Alex?
No, again, the point is, like, if you have a CD and you buy a CD from a store and it doesn't fucking play or it's broken, you should be able to return that. And that's Jeremy's issue, is that the game he bought, he can't play. So the CD argument doesn't hold weight, because he's literally just asking if you get anything that's broke. I used to, if there were CDs or DVDs that I bought that were scratched on the back when I got them, I fucking returned them. I'm not buying a damaged product. So I took that shit back to Best Buy and Target and places like that, and they gave me a refund. They exchanged the movie. So, yeah.
Yep. All right. Next question. Resident Dow writes in, presidents are temporary, but Wu-Tang is forever. True or false?
I mean, people are still going to be listening. Well, here's the thing. I remember that I was at work one day, and we have this sub team within the store, the e-commerce team. Essentially, they are the shoppers that do the shopping for people. You know, you put in an online order, they do shopping for you. There was one day when one of these girls, who was in her early 20s, had no idea who Wu-Tang Clan was. And I'm like, what the fuck? Have we gotten to this point in history now where we're even Wu-Tang? So, you know, music is one of those things where people still listen to big band music. People still listen to Elvis. You know, people still listen to stuff like Fleetwood Mac and, you know, all these musics from this music from previous decades. So it's not just, you know, the new stuff that people listen to. So you would hope that good music will survive and people will still listen to it. But I don't even know how to answer Daryl's fucking question. But music is one of those things that seems timeless. But yeah, I mean, obviously, in history class we learn about all the presidents, so they're kind of forever too, in a way. I know I'm thinking more about this question than I should, because it's not an actual fucking question that he's asking. He's just bright shit and getting us to think too much about it. But
I'll say this. If you're from the wrong country, presidents may be forever. Anyways, Shannon writes in, with the news of Baldur's Gate 3 not going to Game Pass, could this become a problem for Game Pass or Sony in the future, with developers opting to get the most reward from their hard work?
There are tons of games released all the time. I mean, there's more games out there than we can play. ever in our lifetime. So I don't necessarily think it's going to be an issue. Some people may forego it, but Microsoft's always going to have their first party studio stuff, which is a big plus for them. And, Sony, they'll release their stuff on, PlayStation Plus a year later. But they'll always have games to offer. Now, you may have a few, like I said, developers are like, no, we're just going to sell our game. Thank you very much. But I don't think that is going to be the lion's share of companies. So yeah, you'll miss out on a big game here and there, but I think most games will still at some point end up on the service here and there. I mean, Ubisoft has had no problem putting their games on PlayStation Plus, so...
Each developer is going to have their own preference. I don't think Baldur's Gate needs to be on Game Pass. There might be some other games that need to be on Game Pass. I found a number of neat indie games that appeared on Game Pass. And I've also found a number of neat indie games that were never on Game Pass. It's a nice service for people who can't afford to buy new games every month. And understanding that they don't own those games and certain games rotate in and out. I don't think it's going to hurt or become a problem for Game Pass or PS Plus. I just think you're going to find some games are not available. Can you get Cyberpunk on Game Pass or PS Plus? Can you get The Day Before on Game Pass or PS Plus? There's going to be successes that aren't on it, and there's going to be a lot of not successes that are not on it.
Well, there's a reason The Day Before is not on there, because it's not available for it. But I mean, we also are talking about a game that just won Game of the Year. I mean, Baldur's Gate is one of the best reviewed games of the year. It got critical acclaim in a lot of areas, so it's kind of an example that's kind of bulletproof, where they're like, yeah, we have the Game of the Year. Of course we're not going to put it on. Unless Microsoft wants to pay out the ass for it, you're not going to have it on their service. So,
and there's no guarantee now with Microsoft having closed their acquisition of Activision Blizzard. There's no guarantee we're going to get Call of Duties immediately on Game Pass. There's no guarantee we're going to get World of Warcraft included in our monthly Game Pass subscription. There's a lot of ifs, ands, or buts with these systems. Just take them for what they are. If you enjoy what they provide, buy into them. If you don't, stop. It's exactly what I did. Though I may buy back into Game Pass. They just released the Game Pass app official for the Quest 3. So I can imagine, playing on a 80-inch screen in front of me. Thoughts. Brandon asks, what are your favorite or must-have Christmas foods or snacks during the holidays?
My stepmom would always make broccoli cheese casserole for dinner, but specifically for me because she knew I liked it. Ham, turkey, I like options, maybe a nice roast. We had a family get together today. That's why I went to Lexington, and prime rib was served. It was very, very nice. So, there's a lot of comfort foods that we have this time of the year, but for me, broccoli cheese casserole is a big one, and then just your proteins, your meats. Protein.
I can get down with that. Every year around Christmas, my family they call it company potatoes. So basically take hash browns and mix it with onions and cheese and a layer of cornflakes and bake that. And that is the best side I can ever have. So definitely something I look forward to every Christmas. And finally, V asks, what are your favorite cozy games?
We're talking about like Dreamlight Valley or Stardew Valley, stuff like that. All the valleys.
Cozy. Games that you feel cozy playing. Ugh. I have a feeling it's Herpalia.
Oh, I think Ashley just downloaded that. P-A-L-I-A. Yeah, she did. Ashley just downloaded it for the Switch. She was playing that the other day. Cozy games. I don't know if I have one, because cozy games are one you can always go back to, but like the game I play the most is probably Rocket League, but I'm always amped up and intense for that because it's a competitive game. I don't know that I have a cozy game, to be honest with you, because if I'm not playing Rocket League, I'm playing some new game, and it's just not. There's nothing that I'm just kind of like laid back under a pillow, or like laid back with a pillow underneath a blanket playing. I'm usually up by the TV, ready to go get some trophies. because that's how I live. Yeah, I don't have a cozy game. I would love one. That'd be great, but I don't know. I don't really have a game that's just kind of like chill, you know? Man.
This is going to sound the antithesis to cozy game, but definitely Monster Hunter, because I don't have to go in and fight the hardest monsters all the times. If I'm having a bad day and I need to blow off some steam and just get myself into a zone, I'll go in and I'll do a couple hunts of like lower rank monsters or easier monsters. And once you get into that flow of combat and you get to tune everything else out, that to me is cozy. That's chill. That's where I'm like, okay, I'm feeling good now. And that is it for this week's questions. Thank you everybody for writing in. Please don't forget to stop into our Facebook group every week and post a question. It doesn't have to be game related, though. I think we have more fun on game related questions, though some non-game related questions can be a lot.
I don't know about you. I honestly like the questions that aren't game related. I mean, not that I don't like game related questions, but we talk so much about games on the podcast that a nice little diversion, a sidestep,
it helps.
It does. It's just more fun, like topical things, like, your favorite holiday movie or your favorite holiday dish. It's just kind of like a nice little, hey, like it's. I think what I really like about it is allows us to share more of ourselves with the listeners. It's not just like your opinion on this game or like that. I mean, by now I think a lot of people know our taste in games, but they may not know that I like broccoli cheese casserole for Christmas. So it's just more like breaking down the walls, man, and just kind of.
All right, strike what I just said. Ask us all your non-game related.
What was your favorite 1980s cartoon? Give us everything.
Transformers. Duh.
What was your favorite Power Rangers Zords? Let's go.
I have Tricky's writing in chat saying, "Who is famous for being the cream of the crop?" Legit question. I got nothing. Anyways,
what if you're gonna be on the distracting us from podcasting, you might as well be on the podcast, sir. If you are able to sit at your computer and type and queue up audio, you can get up on here and talk. Because you're obviously not sitting on the toilet.
All right. Anyways.
Macho Man Randy Savage. Yeah, it's I saw someone wearing a ugly Christmas sweater of Macho Man Randy Savage said the cream of the crop. Hey, little piece of trivia here. Breaking down more walls. I met him in person at Redbird Stadium here in Louisville. It was great.
Ooh, yeah.
I got an autograph. I don't know where it is now. I'm really sad about that, but got to meet the Macho Man. Sorry, Patrick does it so much better. I can't.
He does, yeah.
I will be so ashamed.
That's why I don't even try.
When Patrick does it so much better.
All right. All for community questions. On to topic of the week. And ending this on a little bit of a sad note. The Last of Us Online canceled by Naughty Dog. This comes from BBC, Tom Richardson. Naughty Dog has made the incredibly difficult decision to stop development on the game formerly known as Last of Us Online, sometimes known as Last of Us Factions. The decision comes after months of speculation that the game is dead or had no resources put towards it. Naughty Dog confirmed the decision was because focusing on getting this game out the door would have cost them the ability to focus on other single-player narrative-driven games. Last of Us Online development was moving along, and eventually the focus on this being a live service game came into view, and Naughty Dog indicated it didn't have the resources available to continue supporting the game's month after launch.
Yeah, the fact that this project got along so far and Sony never thought, hey, that studio that always wins Game of the Year or usually wins Game of the Year with whatever they release, they're going to have to pour so many resources to this and continuing, its success years in the future, that might take away from their ability to make those story-driven single-player games that our fans love so much. The fact that no one at Sony foresaw that, or true, this is part of the problem as to why 12 of their live service, or out of the 12 live service games, 6 have been delayed, and why things were so rough under Jim Ryan, is because as novices, they didn't know what the fuck they were doing, so making 12 live service games, or scheduling 12 live service games was fucking stupid. And Sony's paying for it now. I would love to know it may make everyone sad, but I would love to know how much money was poured into this project just to scrap it all. I mean, they said that they can use the expertise and, the development of this project in the future going forward, but you have a game that you've spent money developing that's not going to make you any money back. So the fact that Sony went this deep on it, it's a massive fucking mistake. I'm not saying it wasn't the right call to scrap it, but the better call would have been to never do it in the first place. But that's just me.
I think you hit the nail on the head, and I really don't want to be that depressed knowing how much money they've spent on this. But also, that is depressing to me because I wasn't looking forward to Factions or Online or whatever this was. I didn't care. I never played any of their Uncharted's or Last of Us for the online portion. I know there was a lot of people who were, but frankly, I saw this as taking away from what they were trying to focus on next. And who knows what that is? They haven't come out and said what their next game really is. But I just feel like at some point they were in a sunk cost fallacy, and they finally got the kick that they needed to say, all right, enough is enough. We cannot keep doing this. This is not something we can sustain, and those resources are better spent elsewhere. And I'd rather hear about this than a month down the line them saying, we got it out the door, but we also had to let go of 50 to 100 people because this isn't making us the money we thought it was. So I applaud the leadership for sometimes taking the hard stance and making the decision that needs to be done that a lot of studios opt not to do. If Fantastic came out and said, Dave 4 is not getting good publicity, maybe we cut this before people spend their hard-earned cash. No, instead they go out there, they put the game out, sell 200,000 copies with 91,000 refunded, and now they say, yep, we're closing our doors. We're going to pay our debtors, and I use air quotes for that because I feel like that maybe that isn't going to be the thing that they're going to be doing.
I heard they changed their names. I heard they changed it to 8 Points. That was the name of the studio. I'm fairly certain that there's somebody in a shell corporation who renamed something. I think they may have changed their real names, and they're now in the Cayman Islands, possibly. Tricky said that was a mystery, and he'll explain later. But, I mean, IGN reviewed the day before. I mean, we talked about, critical reviews and user reviews. IGN gave it a 1 out of 10, because I'm assuming they're like, well, this is what the game is going to be, so we might as well review it. Gave it a 1 out of 10. Their first 1 out of 10 in a decade. Like, they closed their doors, and basically after 4 days of the game being out or the early access being out, clearly they were going to run out of money, and they knew it, and they just decided to get this out to see what they could recoup.
This is why I think Steam has their 14-day policy, because I think that money sits in escrow for 14 days to give players a chance to refund it. And if the studio closes 4 days after, I think Steam is going to hold on to as much money as possible so they don't have to eat anything later down the line. I'm sure that's written in a contract somewhere. But back to Naughty Dog, again, I was not looking forward to this. I know Tricky was, and I feel bad Tricky won't ever get to see the light of day, something that he was looking forward to, and that's disappointing. But these companies need to survive. They need to make products that get them paid. And if that means that they had to kill one project to go focus on another thing, listen, I'm still sad about Scalebound from Microsoft. How many years ago was that canceled at this point? And people are still talking about it going, oh, maybe they could revive it. Maybe they can revive it. If things are dead, they're dead. It's very rare you're going to get something like Metroid Dread coming out decades after it was announced. It's just not common in this industry. But Naughty Dogs will continue, and they will make something else that's great down the line.
Yeah, it's. I honestly, I don't care about the tricky aspect of it. I just care that this could lead to people being let go. I mean, to be perfectly honest with you, I mean, there were some people let go from Naughty Dog recently, but Tricky, Tricky says in the chat, "Wow," with an FU. Tricky, I'm thinking about the people who are going to lose their jobs, not you for not being able to play a game. You selfish jerk. With your bland-ass wings, your plain bullshit wings, and your floppy large pizza. But no, I mean, hopefully this does not result in Sony firing anybody else, or yeah. I mean, this was a big mistake, but if Sony can learn from this and kind of rein it in when it comes to live service games, be like, okay, maybe we're not going to greenlight any more projects. Maybe we'll get what we can out the door and cancel what we need to, and we'll learn from this, because this is an opportunity to learn. But it's a painful one, because Sony's usually pretty good about not announcing something and then having to cancel it. But
yeah, like 12 live service games that are now down to 6. Anyways, it's like I said, I'm hoping they cut it off early enough that we're not going to see those potential layoffs. That they said that somebody got smart and said, if we don't do this now, there could be problems down the line. So I think they are forward looking, as is evident by the decision they made. And we'll see. I wouldn't be surprised if there's a couple layoffs. You might have brought on some people specifically to do this job. And now that this job is no longer here, they are no longer needed. But we can always hope that that's not the case.
Well, and maybe some of those people are transitioned to another project, Naughty Dog, because now you have Naughty Dog. I mean, I'm sorry, I don't count The Last of Us remake and the supposed Last of Us 2 remaster, or the Last of Us 2 remaster they're coming out with as new games. So they haven't really released anything new since The Last of Us Part 2. So there's a gap in what Naughty Dog's producing. So they may be, if they did hire up, they may keep a lot of those people on, because like, all right, we got to get something out the door. Not push it out the door, not rush it, but we need people working, to get our next Naughty Dog game out. Because that's a big gap in their portfolio. Yeah. And there's only so much Insomniac can do.
You're saying that they can't carry the entire portfolio for Sony?
They've been doing it. I mean, yes, again, Guerrilla with Horizon, but it's just 3 Spider-Man games, and Ratchet and Clank and Wolverine. Like, it's just a lot to ask of one studio.
All right. And that is going to do it for us this week. And Alex, we will go on to your shout out, sir.
Well, I want to give a shout out first and foremost to the community, the fuel to the fire, the trophy whores. We just made it to episode 602, which is a fantastic achievement. I mean, at this point, any episode is a fantastic achievement because life changes so much. But the fact that we are still dedicated to doing this just says, just goes to show how strong our community is and how awesome you guys are and how engaged you are. So we very much appreciate your all support and your engagement. Love the questions. Keep them coming. Give a shout out to Matt for hosting tonight. A shout out to Yield and Tricky for not for they couldn't be here tonight, or at least on recording, but it is the holiday season, so always thinking about my Trophy Horse brothers. I'm going to go ahead and call it now. I'm going to say it. Next week, our Sunday recording day falls on Christmas Eve, and no one's going to be editing during Christmas week. So we will take the week off next week, and then we will see you guys in the new year, because the next week is going to be the new year. So, yeah. So this is actually going to be the last episode for the year. We'll take a little break for Christmas, but yeah, no, you guys are awesome. Last but not least, I want to give a shout out to my awesome and loving girlfriend, Ashley. And yeah, that's going to be it for me. Matt, before we go, I want to ask you, what are your plans? Do you and V have your plans ironed out for Christmas?
Yeah, we do. What we do every year is we spend Christmas Eve with my family. It was my dad's favorite holiday, and loved getting all the family together for Christmas Eve. So we all bring, if you've ever seen a table full of appetizers that collapsed on itself, that is the thing that has happened in the Grinelli history. So
true Italian get
true together. Italian, yeah. So yeah, we will be bringing all of our appetizers and gifts to my mom's house. We let the kids open their gifts from the aunts and uncles, and then we do a white elephant whereby everybody picks a number. Everybody brought a gift. You get to choose a gift, and somebody higher in the number pecking order from you may steal your gift. And it's good fun every year. I highly recommend it. It actually saves the family a ton of money. I've got 2 sisters and an older brother, and a number of aunts and uncles and cousins. And as opposed to buying gifts for each and every one of them, we do this as a fun way to save on costs and have a good time while doing it.
You know, man, I'm a little disappointed that you passed up the opportunity to call them a whore's divorce here on Trophy Whores. The good old hors d'oeuvres, sir. But I'll forgive you for that. No, I mean, it's going to be a real quiet Christmas for us. The kids are going to go to their dad's house. It's their year with him. My parents are going to be going out of town, and unfortunately, because I work retail, Christmas week and Thanksgiving week are blacked off, and you can't ask off for them. Mm-hmm. So it's just going to be us, me and Ashley. And I'm trying to get my mom. My mom lives in town, so I'm trying to get over here for Christmas, weather permitting. But it's going to be a really chill Christmas. I did suggest, instead of getting gifts, that she and I just do a really nice date night. Maybe go to a really nice restaurant we wouldn't normally pay for. Maybe do some kind of fun Christmas-related activity. There's light shows all around here. Our Botanical Gardens downtown does a really nice light show, so we'll figure something out. But, we're just in general more about experiences than anything these days. We got like tickets to the Beetlejuice show, stage show next year that's coming to Louisville. So that'll be a lot of fun. But yeah, we want to have things like that to look back on and make memories, as opposed to just buying more crap for everybody. Oh, here's another Walkman or another Talkboy, or, here's another 5 video games or whatever you'll, play once and put down. So we're getting away from, maybe 1 or 2 big gifts, but mostly just doing the experiences. But it's going to be a real quiet Christmas. Just me and her, and maybe my mom and the pets. So the dog and the cats, Tricky, the lovable, cuddly cats that love us very much. Tricky, you jerk.
Cat who's been eating my fake Christmas tree. Good job, Narga.
One of our cats does that too.
I'm right up there with you on that, because this year, instead of V and I getting each other a gift, we just bought ourselves a new dinnerware set, because the one we've had was from our wedding over 10 years ago and is now all chipped and cracked. And we said, you know what? Instead of gifts for each other this year, we'll just spoil ourselves and get us new dinnerware. And we're very happy with that decision. Anyways.
Sounds lovely. Because you can make a really nice date night at home.
Yes, absolutely. Anyways, my shout outs are Alex. Thank you for recording tonight. The dynamic duo has done it again. We managed to put on a great show.
Well, here's the thing. This is the first time that it's just been me and you, right? Or is this the second time?
Yeah, no, this is just you and me. First time.
Inaugural.
Yeah, and look at that. It shows almost under an hour and a half. Anyways.
We don't have that windbag Tricky Mick just blowing up the podcast like a hot air balloon.
Well, he certainly had his 2 cents in tonight.
That's what I always got to offer, is 2 cents.
He does offer good advice. Still love you, Tricky. Shout out to my wife V. Heal fast so we can get back to adventuring like we normally do. Shout out to the Channel 3 community. Come on out to channel3.gg to gamify your social media. Shout out to Tricky and Yield. Sorry you couldn't make it here tonight, boys, but we got you covered. We held down the fort. Shout out to who else? Our community. I saw Gaz in chat. I saw Dupes in chat. Any of the newcomers, thanks for coming on by. And if that is all, until next time, happy trophy hunting.
And thanks to all the community that wished me a happy birthday last Thursday. Appreciate y'all.
Happy birthday, Alex.
Tricky didn't wish me a happy birthday.
The theme song is Venus by the band Even off their album Zenith. Permission granted by the band and 12 Stone Records. You can find them on Facebook by going to www.facebook.com/evenphilippines.